Hello, everyone. Welcome to my crazy day, maybe to your crazy day. I'm just going to take a breath. I'm just going to take a breath. Hello, and welcome to the Greatness Game. I love the accountability of being here every night because there's days like this that you just want to pull your hair out. And I'm just glad that we can have a glass of wine together and have a little conversation about getting through hard days, pulling up your greatness, and breathing. So welcome to the Greatness Game. Come on in. Hopefully you had a good day. I had a good day. I just had a crazy day. Like, I just want to breathe. I want a hot bath and some breath and a glass of wine. So I hope that you are starting this week off good. You know, there's some craziness going on. The Small Business Association came down with some new rules around the loans, the grants that were not good news. So I am sorry to report on that to all my small business owners. There is less money there. But there's still money. But just read the details and don't let it be a debt sentence for you. I don't want people to get these loans and then realize how much money they owe back. So just make sure that you do qualify and you qualify for the grants and you don't have to pay them back. So just the little things that you need to know. So welcome to another night where we are talking about resiliency, which is good because actually after yesterday's conversation, I'm just so present to being resilient right now and using those tools on our tool belt to get through day-to-day hard situations, hard conversations, busy days, etc. So tonight, I want to use my own, how I used it today, but I'm going to share with you some work that I have been in resiliency training for a long time. It's really where I fell in love with greatness, and I really dove in about 15 years ago about why certain people succeed and why some people don't. And it really came down to mindset and resiliency. And there is a woman who has been writing about resiliency, and she calls it emotional hardiness, Suzanne Kobasa, since the 70s. And she just really has been talking about this for a very long time, has done a lot of work. And so I'm going to share some of her distinctions that I actually use today. That's the good thing about doing these every night. It's keeping me in my conversation with my clients, my own life, and with you guys. So tonight we are talking about resiliency here at the Greatness Training. If I didn't say so, my name is Dina Batten, owner of the Greatness Training and author of the Greatness Game. And I do these for you, for your mental toughness, your leadership, your greatness games, to help you every day, remind you to remember how powerful you are, how trained you are. You have so many gifts. You have greatness within you. I am such a advocate for people tapping into their greatness mindset that they already have. They just don't have access to it. And so that's part of my love of training and developing people, is helping them give the tools to access their greatness, because when you have a greatness mindset, you are unstoppable. So resiliency training is part of that. And resiliency is really about emotional resiliency, just that the power to get through anything and any challenge. So today, she has 3 C's of resiliency training, and we're going to talk about one today. And her first one is challenge. And today I was challenged, so I used this work today. And so come on in, welcome. Hello, Jody, welcome. I don't see all the comments. I'm going analogy and I don't see all the comments as they come up. So if you do comment, if you come in and you're watching, please say hello. And I want to see if these comments are working on this new platform I'm using. All right, so challenge is her first C, and there's three kind of parts to challenge. And the first one is resilient people view difficulty as a challenge, not as a paralyzing event. So just a little example of that today. For me, I was in about noonish, I was in a situation where I was super, super triggered. And, I use my work all the time. I walk my talk. And so instead of exploding, instead of, making bad decisions, instead of screaming as I want, all those things that we can do when we're in a trigger, I looked at it and I said, what is this about? And I challenged myself to look at it. And there were three things there. One, I was cold. I don't know about you, but when I'm cold, I don't like being cold. So I was cold. Two, I was hungry. And three, I was annoyed. All right. And so when I challenged myself and I said, what is this trigger about? I saw that I could solve two of them immediately. Put on a sweatshirt, got something to eat immediately. And then the annoyed part was actually my second part of this. The annoyed part was I was back to back meetings, Zoom meetings today. And that, I don't know about you guys, but I just can't, it just exhausts me. And so the email was out of control today. The Zoom meetings were out of control today. And I was annoyed. And so when you understand what emotion is going on, and I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, when you know what feeling is going on, you can help it. It's just like your child. When you know what's going on with them, you can address it. So same thing with your own feelings. So with the annoyed, and I just looked at what am I so annoyed about? And it was just, I felt pulled apart today. Just too many meetings. So that was the challenge part, is resilient people view difficulty or a trigger or a bad day or a bad time as a challenge, not as a paralyzing event. So see if you can challenge yourself and see if you can you can challenge yourself through that and look at it and unpack it and get yourself through it with grace and compassion. The second part of challenge is resilient people look at their failures and mistakes as lessons to be learned from. And that is, for me, it's one of the biggest things in greatness training, is learning from our mistakes. And this is today's mistakes, last week's mistakes, 10 years ago's mistakes. And I believe I am the biggest advocate around that past lessons are gold and they are needed where you're going, right? In your future, you need all of these lessons. Every breakup, every layoff, every bad time, every emotional time, every financial time, every one of those gave you this arsenal of lessons that you're bringing into your future. Remember, your future needs you. Your past doesn't, right? Your past is done. So you're bringing all those lessons into your future so that you know better, so you can do better. So for me, looking at my failure and mistakes and, looking at today's schedule, I could have looked at that and shamed myself for putting too many things on the day, right? But let me just address something. There you go. And instead, I learned from it. So what I did is I got an action. I learned the lesson. Too many Zooms, too many meetings. I had 2 media interviews today. It was just too much, and it just pulled my energy, pulled my focus. And so learned that lesson. So I got an action for the rest of the week and next week, and I rearranged my schedule so I had time in between. I think this time we have to be really thoughtful of how we're doing our schedules right now. And we think, oh, Zoom, should I say I did, is Zoom isn't, it's not like a live meeting, but it still takes a ton of thought and a ton of focus and a ton of work. It is work, for all of us that are working on Zoom. So giving yourself space between meetings, between Zooms, between obligations. So that is the second part of challenge, of being resilient, is learning your lessons and not bringing shame, not bringing, wronging yourself, shame to yourself, or just beating yourself up for those failures or those mistakes. So that was really a big one. And then the third part of her 3Cs challenge, and it says they don't view themselves as a negative reflection. They don't view themselves as a negative reflection. So their self-worth. So your failures, your mistakes, the things that you're tripping on aren't tied into, collapsed into your self-worth. So that is really important. I could have looked at my day today and just completely shamed myself, completely beat myself up for doing it that way, for scheduling it that way, for doing bad here or whatnot. But there's no use in that, right? We've got to have grace with ourselves, especially right now. Our productivity is way down. Our focus is way down. We cannot expect the same from ourselves. So that piece is super, super important, having grace. So if you are watching this, I just would love for you to put the word grace in the comments. And what I mean by that is as a declaration. We've got to remember, have grace with ourselves. Grace, put it in the comments and use it as a declaration that you're going to have more grace on yourself and on others, on your team, on your kids. We have to remember this is draining time, money, energy, our spiritual self, our emotional self, to have grace with ourselves through this time. So, and it is a challenge. That's why she has it under challenge, is giving ourselves the love and the grace in the good times and in the challenging times, right? In the days where you are pulled apart and you don't feel like you want it all, grace of know better, do better. I am not going to do that tomorrow, right? So you can look up her work, Suzanne Kubasa. She's done a lot of work around resiliency. She's someone that I've studied, and it's just such powerful work to learn these skills to get yourself through each day with grace, resiliency, power, greatness, right? Little wins. And there's going to be days where you have a setback or not a win day, right? We have grace. So that is really the lesson for tonight. I'm going to do the other two C's later this week, but I want to stay in this space of resiliency because I think it's a really powerful conversation to be having. It is so part of my greatness training and what I believe in that gets us through hard times. Even in the times that, I look at a couple of my clients who are building businesses and they have a lot of risk going on with teams and money. But you know what they need? They need resiliency. It's hard to build a business. So whether you're dealing with a bad time or an exciting building time or somewhere in between, just feeding your family, so whatever you're handling, resiliency is a part of your tools in your tool belt. And it's part of your greatness game. And just winning, resiliency. For me, it was a win today. For me, just to stop and challenge myself in that moment of trigger, of that smallness trigger that I could have spun out on, I didn't. I challenged myself. I just looked at what is going on. And then I could solve it. So those little wins are, it goes on my winning wall. Those little wins are so big right now. So have grace with yourself, love yourself through every single day, all the tricks, all the wins, all the exciting moments. And we're going to learn the other two later this week. And let me just check something. I am going to have a guest this week too, and we are going to be just staying in this conversation of resiliency on many different levels. So stay tuned. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, The Greatness Game. Please share this with someone you think it is, relevant, or someone who needs to be reminded that they are amazing, they have value, and that we were all born with greatness. We were all born with greatness. And it's just our remembering that we do have that greatness mindset inside of us. We just have to access it and apply it, use it. It's kind of like a foreign language. If you don't use it, you lose it. Same with our greatness. If you don't use it, you lose it. You want to use it every day. Live, lead, and love from your greatness mindset. All right, y'all. This concludes our resiliency conversation today. And this is the homework, the action, is I would love for you to look at maybe a mistake or a failure, if you want to say, somewhere where you just got tripped up in the last couple weeks. Look at that and see if you can grab the golden nugget, the lesson from that mistake, and see if you can, bring it forward into your future, that valuable lesson. It is so important to learn that reflection. Reflect on the mistakes, the failures, the trips, and review it. It's, just like sports. Sports is such a great analogy, because when a sports team does a game, they review those tapes and they look at the plays that didn't work. But do we have the courage to do that? Do we have the greatness to do that? Review your mistakes and challenge yourself to know better, do better next time. All right, you guys have a great night. Mwah. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow night.